I'm Scott Allen Miller. It's the 5th of December, 2022, and this is my vlog of daily life in Leon, Nicaragua. Today is Monday, and it's a busy work day as the start of a very busy week. We got a lot going on this week, including a trip to Managua for the kids. We have a major event at the hotel and restaurant on the beach. Big holiday coming up this week. We have to get our internet in for the new house, and we have to move, and we have to arrange all the things to do the move. So it is a crazy busy week. And then in just a week and 2 days, next Wednesday, Dominic and I and the kids are heading to the United States for the holidays. So wow, do we have a lot going on starting this week and for the next 9 days. Then we will get to my dad's in New York, and we will have a little bit of time to just chill and eat New York food, which we're all missing. So the original, yesterday we didn't know if we were going to get a call that the kids had to head into Managua this morning to get their second round of vaccines, but we did not get the call, and so they're expecting that they have to go tomorrow instead. Oh, the light is better if I move this way. Okay, so we got a reprieve today, but tomorrow they will be heading in to do that. This is for those of you who have not traveled a lot, if you don't have vaccines, you have to do a lot of testing. That becomes extremely expensive, and the kids are absolutely terrified of the nasal swabs. They find it incredibly painful, and so they actually spend days ahead worrying. And of course, all that testing and stuff is rather dangerous. Like, that's actually where a lot of the exposures will come from, is having to do all kinds of travel, all kinds of money, all kinds of testing and exposure. And then when you get those swabs done, it leaves your nose sensitive to infection. Like, there's just a lot of, it's dumb and problematic. And they requested this because they feel this is so much better for them traveling. So that is why we are doing it. I've had a lot of flack on the channel of people who are like, you might as well just stab your kids now. And they're not considering the factors, right? So we're having to arrange that. And that's a lot of work. So they're going to be going in tomorrow morning, first thing in the morning, to get that taken care of. And then, so today ended up being pretty much a work day. It was, everyone was home getting all ready. We have to have lots and lots of ducks in a row because we have so much going on this week. So that was really it. We didn't have too much. It was just a lot of coordination for things for the week and work. And we have staff coming into town just to deal with the upcoming events because there's so much to coordinate, so much to do throughout the week. So that is our Monday. Today's topic, we're going to talk about restaurants and the lack of things that they have here, meaning things that they're supposed to have and don't have. But first, just remember to like and subscribe. Any questions you got, ask them below. Leave any comments. Let's talk about stuff. Let's not talk about vaccines. This is not a political discussion. This has nothing to do with COVID. Like, they have the shots for travel reasons, right? So if you want to be like, it doesn't work, it has nothing to do with it, right? So that's fine, but this is not a place to put the opinions about the vaccines. Pro, con, doesn't matter. None of that. This isn't a health thing. This is a destroying their lives thing because of the travel requirements, right? It makes them scared for days ahead of time. It makes them not want to travel. It causes all kinds of complications for us and risks. It creates a lot of real world risks for us that have nothing to do with health. So, and every person who posts and gets upset that we're supporting some political party by getting our kids shots, they're choosing to ignore all the real world factors that have nothing to do with healthcare or politics as to why we need to have them potentially. So lots of comments, lots of discussion, but not about that. Absolutely not at all. In general, no political discussions, please, on the channel. It's inappropriate. This is not a political channel. But like and subscribe. Go ahead and unsubscribe if you are only here to put political stuff in the comments. Sorry, every time I mention that we're getting vaccinated or anything, a whole bunch of people just leave. It's like, okay. If you would like to share on social media, please do so. And if you'd like to support the channel, you can buy me a coffee directly. All right, today's topic is this problem with restaurants and not having things. We noticed this strongly about a year ago when we moved to Leon. Previously, we lived on the beach, and it's mostly Nicaraguan food, so you don't have the same effect because there's very small menus typically on the beach. And when you come to Leon and you have these restaurants with much broader menus, and they have to, right? They have to compete on having different cuisine, for example, and just unique menu items. So that's important to a lot of the restaurants in Leon, because on the beach, you pretty much are choosing what's available or who has a good view or whatever, right? Who's got the surf. But when you're in Leon, you're not doing it for that. You're doing it because they have food you want or a price you want or whatever, or a cool venue. And so they have to compete on different things. And as an example, but this is true everywhere, right? We go to Barbaro a lot. And for a year, I've been trying to get, when you go, they have their like headline item on the menu, right? Our specialty thing is these fireball yuca balls or whatever, right? It's like it's kind of like a fried hash brown ball, but spicy, right? And I don't know if it's good or bad, but I want to try it. And it looks so interesting, and it's always on their menu, and it's always at the top. You like every meal, choose French fries or these. And every time, for a year, I have never been there, to the best of my knowledge, that either I or Dominica has not ordered them, and never once have they been available. They're a specialty item that only this place has. It's on their, like, it's not exactly a headline item, but it is on their menu to, like, this is one of the things for everything. Like, it's so highlighted. It's so obvious on the menu. They've done such a job of promoting it. And they even have two versions of it, a potato one and a yuca one, and they don't make them. For a year, we've been living in Leon, never once do they have them. And we go there fairly often. Never. Sometimes they haven't had salmon, but most of the time they do. Every place is going to run out of things from time to time. That's normal, right? And that's a tough thing in Nicaragua. Although, you know, for those in like the United States, you guys are having those problems like nonstop too. So we're sharing in that down here a little bit. But the difference is, in the United States, it's normally supply chain, and here it's normally very small volumes being purchased at great distance. And if a number of people order an item that they don't expect, then they run out, and it takes a while until they replenish. It's not quite the same. It's just being caused by a really large drop in total restaurant goers, causing them to not be able to keep their stocks fresh without keeping the volume incredibly low. So all it takes, for example, with Barbaro, when Dominica and I go, often we will go and order a week's worth of salmon meals at one go, because very few people order them. We will normally get 4 every time we go, because she and I, and then we get for takeout for the kids, because it's the only major menu item there that we're interested in. Everything else that they have that we can eat as pescatarians is something we can get really easily at one of our own restaurants, and we tend to like more, and certainly it costs a lot less. So we go there specifically for the salmon. So when we go, we get a lot of them. And as a place that while it's a major menu item, not that many people order it, we represent a very large number of their salmon orders in any given week. So if we go when they don't expect, that alone could cause them to run out earlier than they think. And then for somebody, they're not going to have any. That kind of stuff happens. And you have to be accommodating. Well, okay, that's going to happen. But we went to a restaurant this week, and they were supposed to have salmon. So Dominica ordered the salmon, and immediately they're like, oh no, we're out. And she said, okay, when's the last time you had salmon? And he's like, oh, I don't know, it's like a week ago. And then she's like, how? And she started pressing him and pressing him and pressing him. And eventually he's like, no, we don't carry the salmon anymore. And it's so a thing that's happening. And then she ordered a ginger ale. And they're like, oh, no, we don't have ginger ale. And she's like, you ran out and didn't restock, or you don't carry it anymore? And we're just ordering off the menu, right? We're not just saying words, right? We're looking on the menu, went to the restaurant specifically for the salmon. I mean, both of us and the kids, we wanted 4 salmon meals from Carnivoro, went there to try it out. And it turns out it's not a menu item anymore, but they leave it on the menu. So when you look online, when you even open the paper menu, you look and you say, oh, this is what I want. And they don't really have it. So they use it to draw people in, and then hope that either you decide you don't want it or don't notice that they never have it. And legitimately, a lot of people don't go back and don't try specialty items, so they get away with it an awful lot. But it's a real problem. Lots of restaurants do this. Now, I'll take note, La Antigua 1620, they took something off their menu, immediately changed their menus. Right? I never once ordered it and have them say, oh, we don't have that anymore. I went and looked at their menu and said, oh, it's not on the menu anymore. Right? So completely different experience. So not everybody does this, but it's way too common that several restaurants do this. Now we don't carry that anymore, but it's a thing that draws people in because it looks really interesting. It's their specialty, unique thing, and then they don't really have it. And so we said, oh, if I order something from their drink menu, they're not going to have it either. So I ordered Cinzano, which was on the drink menu. And the guy acted like he'd never heard of it. So I showed him the menu. I mentioned this like yesterday. And then I ended up getting something else because immediately. So it's 3 items in a row None of them weird. Cinzano, I get, is a bit rare, but they have it listed as one of their very few items, right? It is a tiny bar menu. There's no mixed drinks. It's just, here's our rums, here's our tequilas, here's our one gin, here's our vermouth menu. And when you go to order the vermouth menu, oh, no, there's only 2 things and one of them we don't have. Just pretending that there's a menu. You don't have to say what you have, just say vermouth, right? So we noticed really quickly that they were doing it, and we've had a similar experience at restaurant after restaurant after restaurant for the last year or so. And it's, to quite some degree, this is being caused, I'm sure, by the drop in tourism, and people are reluctant to pull things off their menu because they might bring them back. All it takes is placing an order in theory, and they can provide them again, but they're not doing it. And some of these places are leaving things on for really long periods of time. Absolutely ridiculous to be advertising these items, and you know, you could put stickers over them in the menu, you could draw over them, you could change your online postings. Like, there's lots of ways to deal with this in a reasonable, cheap way. No one expects you to go out and necessarily reprint menus every time something changes, but don't make it a thing that you kind of advertise with and then act like you have it, just not that moment. Oh, you just missed it. You should have come in yesterday. It's your fault you weren't here before we ran out of them. You should come more often. That's kind of the way they behave, and what's actually happening is they don't carry it, and they don't want to admit it. It makes them feel badly. So it really does happen an awful lot. Prepare yourself, at least until tourism returns and things really get going again. Did I say tourism? Tourism returns and things get going again. Set a certain expectation. Yes, you can be annoyed by it, right? But don't get like actually upset. Don't be going out with a, oh, thank goodness I found this menu and it's got this thing that's completely unique and no one else has it and my life is saved and I'm gonna have such a good evening, and base your evening around it. Unless you call, even if you call and ask, they will often be like, yeah, we have it. And then when you get there, they'll try to act like they just ran out, right? So be prepared. Unless you can place the order and have it waiting for you, right? Assume they don't have it, or very likely won't. And then, you know, make sure there's another menu item you'd be okay with, kind of thing. And I got a really awesome grilled vegetable salad. Like, I ended up really enjoying my meal. I felt really good afterwards. I really needed all those veggies and fiber. Like, that worked out fine. I really enjoyed it. I will go back, right? But I have to set that expectation. They're never going to have that salmon I was interested in, and that's just the way it is, right? So that's a thing you kind of gotta really get used to. In the United States, it'll happen from time to time, but you're pretty confident that you're not going to end up with not getting the food item you want. Generally, if you go to a restaurant for something that they specialize in or always carry, that they're going to carry it. And it's just a different expectation here. I think in the US, people would universally get more upset about it. They'd post reviews and things and be like, whoa, I went there twice and they don't have this, so they really have it. And other people would be like, hey, you know, I went there and they didn't have it too. Here, people don't really do that, so it's a lot easier to get away with things like that. I think the idea that you're going to get busted in a bad reputation doesn't occur to people. And probably because it isn't true, right? They aren't going to get busted. They're not going to get a bad reputation for that. A few places have earned some bad reputations. Jalisco, for example, for just not having anything. Every single time we went, same thing. This is another example. They push their calamari, and yes, they have it sometimes, but they started going months at a time without it, and it was their only pescatarian option, so we really noticed. Other people may just order something else and forget that it's time after time they don't have that thing. Maybe they only ordered that thing once in a while, but for us, we go all the way to Fatima, go to a restaurant, to then find out they have nothing for us is really annoying. And the last couple times we went, it was item after item. Well, do you at least have this item? No, we don't have that either. And then the people who are eating meat were like, okay, we'll just have drinks. You guys eat meat. We'll grab something somewhere else. They go to order meat and they're like, oh, well, we don't have any of the meat you want. We have these other meats. And then everybody, even the meat eaters, are like, we're out of here, right? Like, their menu is just BS. Like, they have maybe a quarter of their menu. And it wasn't one time, it was over and over. So, and I think the higher end restaurants, or the ones pretending to be higher end or whatever, are much more likely to have these problems because they have so much lower volume that keeping those things stocked is more and more expensive. So now they're trying to find ways without raising their prices to lower the cost of running the restaurant. And that makes sense, but this is not necessarily the best way to do it because they are building a reputation across many different restaurants that they're not carrying the things that they have. So just part of the Nicaraguan experience. When you come here, be prepared, especially right now, that the selection is lean, much leaner than it shows online. Many restaurants have closed that may still show online. That's a thing too. And just be ready to be flexible in a way that a couple years ago, you didn't have to be in Nicaragua. It's not a Nicaraguan thing. It's an economic thing, and this is just kind of how a number of social factors are coming together to kind of make this a trend. It's not some big conspiracy. It's not some thing that it's Nicaragua that they do it. It's just this is the economic situation they're in, and everyone's facing the same set of economic circumstances, and this is more or less a practical way to attempt to deal with that, given the situation, right? Given the situation that everybody already had it on their menu, they're already drawing people in with the hope of getting that, and that supply chains are legitimately not as good as they used to be, so people are less likely to get upset about it, so it works best in their favor to keep pretending that they have it, and maybe once in a while actually have it, and get people's hopes up and then sell them something else once they're there. Honestly, it probably makes the most money, so it's hard to fault them for doing that, but it can be really frustrating if you're going out on a regular basis and can never get the things that you want. It's especially frustrating for us because the items that we need because we're pescatarians are universally the ones that people don't have. So from our experience, we can spend an entire evening bouncing from restaurant to restaurant and at every step be told, oh no, we don't have the one item we had for you. And then we have to pack everyone up and go on to the next restaurant and do the same routine again. And sometimes we've had it like at Barbaro where we've ordered, and 30 minutes after we've ordered, after other people's food is just about to start coming out, then they'll come tell us that our food doesn't exist and they never had it. And then we have to figure out what we're going to do. Of course, we can't leave. Other people's food is already coming out. And we've invested so much time. We've been there for so long. And they know, right? If they tell you right away, you're just going to leave. So they wait until you're kind of stuck, and then of course you could leave, but then you're throwing a fit and like, we're not going to pay for the food that the other people got because you didn't bring all the order, and it's a difficult situation, and they know that, right? So they put you in that situation hoping you don't leave and stay and just get something else. But that kind of stuff we're finding over and over and over again, and it makes it very difficult for us to go out to eat. It makes it very frustrating, and many times Dominica, that's the reason Dominica will give for not going out to eat in Leon. Well, we could go out to eat, but the chances that we're going to get to a place and they're going to not have our food and we're going to have to go on to another, it takes so much time and it's so frustrating, and you can't look forward to anything. And that's how a lot of people eat, right? Oh, I'm looking forward to this salmon that we can get at Barbaro. It's got this great mustard sauce. What if they don't have it? But I was looking forward to that. There's no alternative. There's nowhere else to go and get salmon, right? We thought Carnivoro had it. They don't carry it anymore, right? I literally don't know another place to carry salmon in the city. So there probably is, but we haven't found it yet. And so that leaves us, well, if we were looking forward to salmon, and even much bigger deal is we have to coordinate the kids. The kids are so hard to feed. And when we say, okay, we're going to Barbaro, we're going to bring you back salmon, they get all excited and they're like, finally, that's what we want. It really is. It's hard to, some of you will know if you have girls of this age, getting them to choose what they want for dinner is one of the hardest things we do all day. And when restaurants pull that on us, it makes them upset because they finally were looking forward to food, and now they go back to, I have no idea what I want and can't get the things that make me happy. And for us, it now becomes a generally very expensive and very time-consuming process to try to find anything that they will eat, and generally they won't eat very much of it because then they're unhappy. It wasn't the thing they were looking forward to. So for us, it really magnifies the combination of being pescatarian and trying to feed kids who don't want to come out. We notice to a degree normal people do not. But it's worth noting, we go out to eat so much in Leon, we certainly keep at least one restaurant afloat in the city, for real, from the amount that we go out to eat or get delivered from them. The amount that those restaurants as a group lose from us alone should be noticeable, just because as a group they do this thing and it causes Dominica and other people to have that reaction of, it's not worth going out to eat. It's taken away a piece of the value, right? Part of the value is someone cooks for you. Part of the value is you get a different selection of food than you would have at home. Part of the value is the venue, but part of it is the looking forward to something special. And if you can't look forward to something special, if you actually fear looking forward to something special because you have a high expectation of disappointment, that really does a lot to make you say, I don't know if it's worth the cost in time or money to go out to eat. And I think my guess is that is negatively impacting, to some degree, the restaurants in the area, but it's not one that impacts them individually. It impacts them as a group because people start to lose faith across the restaurants, and that lowers the amount that people go out. And in a culture where people go out a lot, that can be significant. All right, that's my topic for the day, and a bit of an odd one, but it really did. It has affected us so much for the last year, and it affected us so much this week, this one experience of every single thing we ordered, alcohol, soda, meals, everything not being something that they carried. And some of it a little, Their salmon steak, that's like a main item on their very tiny menu. The ginger ale that they advertise, the one vermouth that they have, like, come on. Like, what do you carry? Just tell us what you carry. It was so hard to order because everything we ordered, he'd be like, no. And they'd be like, why are you ordering these things? We're like, why are they on your menu? Right? It's not our fault. We looked over your menu and chose the thing you told us you had. That was the basis of this communications. Like and subscribe. I will see all of you tomorrow.